So, kind of go into this a little further because I didn't really look at the news much today. And that, you know, right now at these little moments when somebody like looks around or something and isn't ready for their demonstration with all their stuff, apparently that means lies or something. And in their weird disregard world, did you guys know that? See, these are the little things that when I find a bunch of terrorists out of people, I investigate why the fuck they're being like that. Why they even have ideas, why they even think like that. So, essentially, this box, I call that the Mormon box. You see what those look like? So this is Xavier something, and Xavier Pelkey. So here's pedophile news. So an ISIS inspired attack on a mosque. And the 17-year-old said Berkeley had talked about gathering materials to make fireworks to attack someone, adding that he told him that he wanted Allah to grant him to be a shaheed and die while fighting in the cause of Allah. You see what that person looks like? What that person was doing was an online mercenary contract. And that the reality is busting him only has a whole bunch of other people that basically look like him taking over. You see what a little mommy looks like? You see what a little mommy that tortures people in speakers and wants to be constantly voyeuring out of somebody's camera eyes, and you see what a little mommy looks like? You see what a Mormon flea is? These are the terms for them. And you see what the Mormons were busy doing? Plotting with underage kids. An Islamic terror plot. You see what the Mormons are like? You see his teeth and shit. You see his face, his little unicorn hairdo. You see what the Mormon is? A little Mormon. A little Mormon. So, they have these fucking retards all over Tri-Cities that are busy pedophiling and plotting a terror contract at Energy Northwest. This is what I was talking about. You see how they also plot similar ideas at the mosque. They're out there in West Richland, and the mosque is out there in West Richland. They also attempt to plan similar ideas at the mosque out there. And then I found them basically wanting to do a similar idea. These are the boilerplate contracts at the Jewish synagogue. You see what the Mormon fleet does? And so, if your guys' like ISIS drug prostitution system is being forced to do their stupid little shit, there's a correction to that. I mean, the whole idea is that the people that do the drugs and prostitution, they're not supposed to go after those people. And see, these people are like, they're always kind of like, they're like Tea Party, but they're in this hacker world, basically. And that they do the Islamic terror, purist Islam stuff, and that here in the United States, A lot of those women don't wear things on their heads and stuff like that, and like that's the kind of stuff that essentially, that essentially, if your mosque doesn't have everybody with their head covered or something, okay, that's kind of what it is. And then just a synagogue is just a synagogue. There ain't much about that, but essentially, if you the closer you get to their strictness, the more protected your mosque will be. So that is essentially like if the government is like fighting this stuff, potentially, it might be advantageous to advise some like this is strict, the threat level is higher and stricter times. That might have an effect. You never know, but see, that's what it is these just run their whole world. 9/11. There would have probably been people that would have been thwarting 9/11 within their own world. And then they would have gotten rid of somebody, and then somebody would have come right back in and picked up where they left off until they achieved their goal. And so this is what I'm talking about. This is what I call white Turk. You see what they look like? Kind of looks like a Republican that goes to like an E-Free church, huh? Or a little Mormon kid, or a Mormon seminary student, or a BYU student. Kind of looks like that, doesn't it? And who would be the people that you would least suspect being involved in that type of stuff? Probably somebody that looks like this, huh? And then, yeah, he probably was a gun toter and shit, and probably was embedded in some sort of like kind of militant Tea Party world potentially. That's where they like to train at inserting themselves and shit. They do. So that's why I say that there's a list of contracts, okay? Part of what these people do is, they all have the pedophile, espionage shit in it. They do. But these ones, they attempt some pretty risky stuff. Some of the contracts in here are to be able to put VR goggles on, and to be getting direct access to like Joe Biden's cameras and his speaker, because he'll have that stuff. He will. This is America. And kick-ass stuff like that a president will have. And then the Pentagon will know if anything weird has happened. Okay. See, the reality is that if you're like in the National Security Council with those camera eyes or something, then the Pentagon will know if you ever blackmail. And so then those people in the National Security Council, they know that the Pentagon would see that stuff, and that they know that the Pentagon won't do what you want. Basically. And so that is like where most people do that kind of blackmailing stuff under the idea of nobody being able to know about that. So in ways, those become a way for a White House to justify just not bothering ever doing that stuff. So, by the way, it has a couple of dual preventative aspects to it. It does. But the whole idea is that this one is essentially the one that gets into Admiral and General, and then when they piss off those people for getting rid of their dumb things. Their dumb thing gets tortured out because they'll essentially have an advisor, the like lazy rich man executive advisor, and then when they don't have their dumb thing, that's essentially where it gets replaced by probably not this guy. They have like a smart builds around it, where you essentially would have to be smart enough to do the advisement, to misdirect and stuff. But nowadays, it's like anybody that can get access. And it's meant to do low volume forms of internal dialogue manipulation. Internal dialogue manipulation on decision making. That's what it's. See, mostly the hacker contract for the pedo seal for like a VIP or like a president or something like that. It's meant to lurk on them, and it's meant to manipulate their decision at critical times and stuff like that. That then they'll have like a game plan of how they want to mold the decision in certain ways. Okay, so if that's the kind of contracts for the pedo sealing, and then they also have these type of people. They essentially, when these little Mormon flea looking fucks, these are the ones that I'm gonna flea take your stash and I'm gonna gnaw you and torture you in low volumes all the fucking time. That's another one. So that stuff kind of all, see, essentially this will be like Chinese hacker world, so it'll be about manipulating stuff in Chinese hacker ways. This will be about manipulating stuff in Islamic terrorist ways. This is essentially manipulating stuff in a white supremacist way, and this is essentially manipulating stuff in like a Putin Russian intelligence way. And so that's and this goes back to like who these cops use. It's like fucking hackers and shit when they're trying to find Columbine kids. Look what a Columbine kid looks like today. What he was doing is Elephant and Columbine, and look at what they look like. These look like the people that you guys would give a pass to if you found them being gross little pedophiles. And then those people in Benton County, those chicks in Benton County, if they found a 17-year-old that looked like that being a gross pedophile online, and if they knew how to do hacking or something, then those people in there would give this person a pass just by the way he looks. You see what Columbine killers look like nowadays. The whole idea is that so much like crazy psychoness went into people being crazy about Columbine killers that essentially the whole world of D&D, they sit around sucking dicks and doing nerd stuff. They, at any moment, see, they probably won't even download anarchist cookbooks and shit anymore. I mean, because there's just was so much fucking crazy psychoness on dark web about them that essentially it destroyed what that world would have ever been. And that essentially they police each other now where they find them, and then they bring them over to the other side. And then there's a world that like accepts their dumb Marilyn Manson nerdiness, and then nobody gives a fuck if you're gay or something. And like then they're not allowed to be pedophiles or nothing. And there's a bunch of nerd chicks in there that'll have sex and shit. I mean, in ways until fucking retard. Until retard Marmony at Amazon went and got a dark web AI on it. Essentially, Amazon represented the reformed Columbine D&D world kind of stuff. Basically. So, let's see. He'd be doing more than Twilight with that suit on, that's for sure. He'd be doing Revolution. He'd probably be practicing his top level ARG encryption in Ready Player Stupid Pedophilia. He probably would have been doing a side archer. This is what I want people to see. I want people to see what basically is like the Islamic terror dumb agent. They have smart ones too. They won't look like that. See, this is the unicorn. So, I used to have a unicorn, and now I got a Jew head. I learned all about those people a long time ago. One of the things about visual encryptions is that I know how to use those in the past, but essentially I've made it through most of the research that I would ever need from that world. And see what kind of like Amazon has a Mormony. A Mormony. See the unicorn? See the high hairline? See the unicorn? And so nowadays, Big Cuckles now sports a Jew beard. And it's probably witching down his And so this is like, these people are highly susceptible to massive forms of psychopathy. Highly susceptible. They already live in like, I found these fucks. It's like military guy found them. Then I was sitting around kind of being bored. And then some fart happened, and then some sort of weird beer was drinking or something, and then all of a sudden, pedo hunters started. And then they do like this whole orchestrated encryption shit. It's like a live ARG out in the world with flowers and shit. And so the military guy like figured out what a group of them were doing. Okay, so they're already susceptible to essentially like massive forms of psychops and shit that they do themselves. I mean, it's part of that weird pedophile group. And that this is where around here, essentially, the biggest problem is that everybody refuses to update from the 1990s on what stereotype profiling stuff is. You see that around here, these people, these are the people that essentially like, you know, the high school kids, if they want to sell drugs or something, they basically have to get approval from these people. They run a subversive silk style system, okay? So whatever the research on silk road, is essentially the same similar theoretical stuff. There you go.